It's Scott MacArthur here. Thanks very much for tuning in. I thought I'd go live this week rather than play one of my replay videos. I am going to play a replay video, but do it slightly differently. It's not one of mine. It's been an interesting week. We had a family death, well, a very close member of the family death this week, who was actually a friend rather than a direct family member, but it was very sad. And I tried to go to the funeral on Tuesday, but my car broke down, so that was great. And then when I was waiting on the AA, I started my glasses. So you've got to laugh. Anyway, so somebody was telling me that I shouldn't go to the funeral, I suspect. But so today I'm going to build on themes that I've been developing now over the last 12 months. And it is 12 months. Isn't that incredible? I posted yesterday, I very quickly took some snippets out of various videos that I'd made over the last 12 months, and good grief. It's amazing how much you can do in a year. So anyway, so I was looking at that and I thought, I think I might go live tomorrow, just because I hadn't been live since Tuesday. And I thought I'd have a chat with you here live rather than on the pre-record. So what I want to do, one of the things that you will have heard me talk about if you've been following me at all, is that I lifted a part of a sentence from a children's poet laureate called Riddell, or Riddle as we would call him in Scotland. And he said that a good book or a good story could act as an empathy engine. That really attracted me, that phrase, empathy engine. And indeed, I liked it so much, I'll just stick this on the screen, that I've set up a private Facebook group called The Empathy Engine. And that's designed, it's not a funnel, it's just a place for people who like storytelling, who might be interested in being a storyteller, maybe telling stories when they're presenting, just to come in, a nice safe place to ask for feedback, to talk about various aspects of how you go about telling a story, writing a story, presenting a story, whatever it is. So if you're interested in storytelling, pop in there. It's a small group, there's only 41 of us, but it's an interesting group of people, I promise you that. And they'll certainly give you feedback if you ask for it, and I know I will. And I'm gradually developing unique content for in there, so I hope you get a chance to join. I think it's quite a nice little group. But as I said, this phrase, empathy engine, it really stuck with me, because if stories help you understand other people, they act as an empathy engine. The engine needs maintenance and it needs a driver, and you're the driver. And I was looking around for references, really, because I use quite a few videos or sometimes research in my own work as a professional speaker. And I found this little video that I wanted to show you, because I mean, it's only 4 minutes long, but it's not had great responses on YouTube, which is beyond me. It's also by the BBC, so well, maybe that's the reason these days folk are a bit loopy about the BBC, but I think it's really, really helpful, and it really nails some of the things that I talk about on my Tuesday morning show, Artifact Live, which is about the art and science and storytelling. It really nails it really quite well. So I'm going to show you it now, and maybe we can have a chat about it afterwards and see what you think. So let's just see if we can run this little video.
There's a Native American proverb that says, "The one who tells the story rules the world." Stories have the potential to be incredibly powerful. They're able to change how we relate to each other, to change prejudice. So the potential for stories to persuade is staggering. I read this really, really good research paper about these two books, which basically suggested that if you get people to read a couple of chapters of Harry Potter, they'll rate themselves higher than other people in their ability to potentially move something just using the power of their mind. The people who read about the vampires, they'll actually believe that their teeth are slightly longer than other people in the population, just as a result of having read a chapter or two of this book. In terms of psychology, there's a few things that stories actually do to us. We get this sense that we're fully immersed in the world that we're reading about.
Would you like to come on an adventure?
And we start to almost feel as if the things that are happening to them are happening to us.
Reading is not a relaxation. You are building worlds. You are populating those worlds with cities, and those cities you are populating with people. So although television, film, theatre all have their place in the storytelling world, to me that moment of contact with a book, when you read a story and unlock its secrets, nothing quite comes close.
Our research has been on the meaning of individual words. If you read the word jump, for example, you activate those areas that you also activate when you do actually perform the action of jumping. So that would be about here somewhere. The interesting question in this case, of course, is, if you read about somebody else jumping, why should you activate brain areas related to jumping? The proponents of the theory would say that immersing yourself into a story is based on the mirror neuron system. I am convinced that mirror neurons are part of this process, but it can't be the whole story.
It's been found that when we connect with people who aren't real but are fictional characters, it forms a sort of social surrogate for us. It's almost like they're a real person when they're not. And psychologists sometimes call it forming a parasocial relationship. And what's interesting about that is it kind of makes us feel less lonely. And it can also buffer self-esteem and improve our mood. We know that having a lot of friendships with other people when you're in a couple is a really positive thing for the outcomes of that relationship. But what's really interesting is they don't have to be real people. If you're trying to change people's opinions about controversial topics such as same-sex marriage or immigration, for example, stories have actually been found to be a lot more effective in producing political change. Attitudes towards stigmatised groups could be improved by reading Harry Potter, but only if the person identified with Harry.
Children love stories. They always have a story to tell, whether it's about the weekend or what happened in the playground. And it's such an important part of understanding the world around them and understanding themselves.
You should definitely turn this off right now and go and pick up a book.
Well, wasn't that interesting? I think it's a lovely video, and it really draws some of the major themes that I've been thinking about for the last 12 months, probably more than that. It was also interesting that it was filmed, I don't know if you know, or you recognise it, but it was largely filmed in Oxford in Blackwell's bookshop, right at the start of the massive bookshop. That's one of my favourite places. I go there and just wander around. I don't even always look at the books. They must think I'm a right weirdo, but there's a really good vibe that you get in those places. So it was nice to see that. It was also interesting to hear about the idea of mirror neurons. Now, I know that there's mixed evidence that mirror neurons work the way certainly the self-help gurus tell us. But I like how they've linked that to things like prejudice, discrimination, the idea of the other. So that, to me, was a good point, notwithstanding where the science is at the moment. But I'm going to ask my clever science friends about that and see if I can get a bit deeper into it, maybe get them to help me understand it a bit better, and I'll share that knowledge because it's certainly not clear in the guru books. The other thing that I think is worthy of mentioning again, the main protagonist in that little film said that it doesn't matter if the characters are real or not. If you relate to them, it can help you understand, share, appreciate, etc., etc. Well, that's a really quite important thing to say, because certainly from my meditation practice, I was taught many years ago that in one of the things that you have to realize in life is that things may be real to you, but they might not be true. And it's the same when you're reading a book, because even if you know that the story isn't true, that can have a profound effect on you. Now, I think from my training as a scientist, and probably became slightly biased towards sort of scientific materialism, where, you know, if it can't be measured, it doesn't count. I grew out of that, and I've been gradually moving, I guess, I don't know if there's two poles here, but certainly towards the middle, and to use things like myth and poetry, etc., to try and explain things. And of course, by their very definition, they're not true; they're subjective. I think that was good as well. I think that point was very well made in the video. So I'm not going to take up much more of your time, but I am going to show you another little film, and it's one of my own little films, and it's actually a piece of poetry that I wrote. Now it's called With Books, and it was inspired really by Carl Sagan, who was another much more distinguished scientist than I ever was, who took science and the communication of science really, really seriously. And he did that to some cost, because although he was known for his famous TV show Cosmos and for some of his amazing books, the scientific community weren't sure about Sagan, and he didn't get the recognition then, back in the 70s and the 80s, that he gets now, which is quite interesting. And I think it's quite positive. But he once wrote about how, have you ever thought about how amazing a book is? And that again stuck with me. So I wrote this little poem. Now, I'm not claiming to be a great poet or anything, but I think I try in this little poem to capture, you know, what these empathy engines do, or what they can feel like when you encounter them. So this is my little poem called With Books.
With Books. Marinating in a room of books, the hardbacks with their strong glossy armour, the softbacks opening for you to read their pages with a wild heart. No Zen illusion, rather an invitation to a conversation. Hearing thoughts and feeling emotions, each a friend's tale and a lesson, some short and clear, others long and tedious. Dust jackets saying everything, or the twisting final paragraph. Daunting effort and exhilarating potential. Which story would you rather live? Go deeper and themes appear, from Beowulf to Shades, the predicaments of human beings, revealing our inner desire for story. A vicarious experience, a mirror, wiring reality. But which reality? Regardless of truth, something dark tells us how the story ends. Inner lies creating gentle meaning, sculpting our conspiracies. Will the writer's vision be the end of us?
Will the writer's vision be the end of us? I did a keynote last week, and I actually used a writer's vision, E.M. Forster, who you've probably heard of in terms of the sort of the Merchant Ivory type films that they've made from his books. But he wrote a book called The Machine Stops back in 1909, the year, incidentally, that Tolstoy died. And it was an incredibly visionary piece where he put humans living under the ground because above ground had been damaged by pollution and war. But everybody had basically retreated into little pods where they connected to the world with things that looked like PCs, and they communicated with each other with things that were like WhatsApp. And most of the protagonists in the book, certainly the lead female protagonist, she spends all her time giving secondhand knowledge out to the world, creating lectures and giving them out to the world, no matter who's there or who's not there. So that I think that little line there might have been inspired by Forster. So I hope you found that interesting. I certainly enjoyed writing it, and I actually wrote that in the cafeteria of Blackwell's library in Oxford that was in that film that I showed you earlier from the BBC. So that's all I've really got to say. A couple of things. If you want to support my work at all, and you like some of the ideas that I talk to you about every week, please go into the books. I've got a little store here, and in that little store there's t-shirts and there's face masks and there's cups and mugs and all sorts of stuff. Now, that store is based in the US, and we're trying to move it to the UK to cut the postage prices a little bit, so maybe hang off for a few weeks. But that would be great. The other thing, of course, you can do to support me is just by going onto my YouTube channel. The address is on the screen, where I post most of my content. I might even post this actually, and you can see there's over 200 hours now on there of video material. So if you're ever sick of Netflix and you can cope with my Scottish accent, you can go in there and have a look. And then the final thing that was said right at the start of that video, before I finish, she said, there was an old American Indian proverb that said, "Those who tell the stories rule the world." I quite like that. I'm not sure it's true, but I quite like it because, again, it's generative. Because if you think of the leaders of the world, I don't know if many of them are very good storytellers, so I think it might break down a little bit. But nevertheless, I like the idea of being what I call an archaeologist of your own life, so that you can find your own stories and share them with others, and those can be used to help, understand, persuade, whatever it is you want to do with other people. So I do quite like that notion. I'm going to finish though with the last thing. On Tuesday, building on the archaeology idea, I'm going to be talking to someone who's been on my show previously as a chap called Peter Edge. Now, you may know Peter as a comedian, but he's more than that. I mean, he's a very good comedian. In fact, he's a terrific comedian. I've seen him live a few times, and he's absolutely fantastic, even in front of a baying pub audience once. He did a great job. But this time he's going to come out of that, and he's going to talk about his professional work as a non-comedian. I don't know if there's such a thing as a non-comedian, Peter, but that's what you're going to be behaving like. Now, Peter had a long and distinguished career in the police force, so we'll probably talk about that because it's quite topical. But he's also very interested in what he calls lost knowledge. Now, I think that is a terrific subject to be talking about in terms of storytelling. So I'll get my fedora on Tuesday morning and hopefully see you then. So I hope you enjoyed that little snippet. It was only, 50 minutes. That's not too bad, is it? And I hope you all have a great weekend. And thank you very, very much for tuning in. My name again is Scott MacArthur. I'm the producer of the Artifact Live broadcast on a Tuesday morning at 11:30 UK time, and of the Edge of Next vlog on YouTube. And I'm sure some of you have been watching that because I've been hearing all sorts of comments about it. So thanks very much. Have a magic weekend, and I'll see you